But tonight, our top story is on what is now being described as the new threat in COVID times. Black fungus or mucormycosis cases are on the rise. Patients suffering from coronavirus becoming prone in some instances to black fungus. Rajasthan and Telangana already declaring it an epidemic. The Maharashtra government sending an SOS after claiming there were 90 deaths in the state due to the disease. And the centre has stepped in and said every state now needs to declare it an epidemic. Our top story today is just why black fungus has become a new challenge. Take a look.
The second wave has brought out an even more dangerous side to the coronavirus, an infection that's on the prowl across the country. One that is even more deadly and is spreading fast. Incidence of mucormycosis or the black fungus is rising dangerously among COVID patients.
नॉर्मल बुखार आया था तो लोकल डॉक्टर से दवाई ली तो एक तरफ से जो लेफ्ट साइड है उसमें सूजन आने लगी, पेन होने लगा बहुत ज़्यादा। फिर हमने न्यूरो सर्जन को दिखाया बुलंदशहर में, राजीव अग्रवाल, उन्होंने MRI वगैरह कराया। फिर उन्होंने वहाँ भेजा ENT डॉक्टर को। ENT वालों ने चेक किया कि इनके ब्लैक फंगस है।
जो बुखार हाथ में कम नहीं हो रहा था इनका ना, तो उसके बाद लास्ट फ्राइडे इनको पेन होना शुरू हुआ। तो फिर पेन होने के बाद हमें पता चला कि ब्लैक फंगस के वो है सिम्टम है। उनका MRI और एंडोस्कोपी कराई गई तो उसके बाद पता चला कि इनको ब्लैक फंगस है।
The nature of the disease itself is such that in most patients it requires a surgery to treat it.
म्यूकोरमाइकोसिस का मैनेजमेंट बेसिकली दो हेड में होता है, मेडिकल मैनेजमेंट होता है और सर्जिकल मैनेजमेंट होता है। हमारे यहाँ जो दाखिल होते हैं पेशेंट वो सर्जिकल मैनेजमेंट के लिए दाखिल होते हैं। तो हमारे यहाँ जो सर्जरीज है राउंड द क्लॉक चलती है, ENT डिपार्टमेंट कर रहा है, डेंटल डिपार्टमेंट कर रहा है और प्लास्टिक सर्जरी डिपार्टमेंट कर रहा है।
Health experts have said the fungus develops as a consequence of steroids that reduce immunity and increase blood sugar levels in critical coronavirus cases. It hits chronic diabetics the most.
Indiscriminate or excessive use of steroids in patients, even though they may not be requiring, and this use of steroids precipitates an increased blood sugar, increased level of blood sugar, fluctuation of blood sugar, and even leading to diabetic ketoacidosis. And diabetes is one of the leading reasons why this fungus starts multiplying so rapidly.
The crisis is so grave, Rajasthan and Telangana have declared the infection an epidemic. The national capital Delhi has set up 3 dedicated centers just for treatment of black fungus. And the center has asked all states to declare the black fungus a notified disease. In Tamil Nadu, a 10-member team has been formed to monitor the raging disease.
So we have created a 10-member committee at the level of DME, Director of Medical Education, with medical experts to go through it and then give us a clear picture of the status.
It is a rare disease, but one that has been known to medicine for decades. Now, with a sudden steep rise in black fungus cases, hospitals are scrambling to find medication, and the government has also stepped in. However, doctors say that prevention by controlling sugar levels and not using too many steroids, plus early detection, is the only way forward because this is a very fast-spreading disease. But people don't need to panic. They just need to ensure that their sugar levels remain in control. In New Delhi, with cameraman Vakar, this is Anisha Mathur for India Today.
Let's raise the big question swirling around black fungus. How serious is it? Is the big question. Is this a new health emergency? Is India ready for this new challenge? What should we be looking out for? And what are the treatments? We'll speak to special guests. Joining us as always, we get stellar doctors to speak to us on these issues. Dr. Sujit Jha, Principal Director Endocrinology at Max Healthcare, joins us. Dr. Subramaniam Swaminathan, Director Infectious Diseases, is with us. And Dr. Rahul Modi, ENT and Head and Neck Surgeon at the Hiranandani Hospital, with us. Appreciate all of you joining us. I want to come to you, Dr. Subramaniam Swaminathan, as an infectious disease specialist. I think at the outset we need to in some way demystify black fungus. Can you demystify it for us. What exactly is it? What are the symptoms that we should be looking out for, and why has it raised its head in COVID times?
So, fungal infections like this are not something that we have unheard of or unaware of. We know of infections like this due to mold infections in vulnerable hosts, which includes diabetics who are poorly controlled with very high sugars and kidney failure. And also another set would be those who are undergoing severe cancer treatment, especially hematological cancers and solid organ transplants and things like that. Outside of these three groups of patients, it's fairly rare. It's something that can affect any part of the body. The typical presentation which we are talking about in this is involvement of the sinuses and spreading to the eyes, possibly to the palate and the dental areas, and upwards into the brain and the supportive structures over there. Obviously, it's something that does not respect any anatomical boundaries. It can progress very fast, and it is catastrophic and fatal if not picked up early. And many times it can be misdiagnosed as simple sinusitis or something very innocuous in the early stages at least.
But Dr. Subramaniam, I just want to understand why now. The question that many are worried, is it directly linked to the fact that because of the explosion in COVID 2.0 cases, that those who are diabetic have not controlled their sugar levels, or possibly because of unhygienic conditions that they may be living in or they may be operated upon, are prone to it?
See, I will argue it this way. Everybody keeps saying the sugar levels are very poor and the steroid use is really rampant. I would argue that COVID 1.0 involved older people who are more likely to be diabetic and had high sugars and more liable to have weak immune systems and were also receiving high steroids. But we didn't see so much mucormycosis after round 1. So the question is, what changed? See, the important thing is, while vulnerability is one thing, without the pathogen, you can't get a disease. See, for example, you could have all the risk factors. But if you're living in a country like, say, Iceland, you're not going to get TB. It doesn't matter how much risk factors you have, because you don't have the pathogen in that country. So the question is, what changed? So obviously, the fungus has entered the equation in this round, and we need to ask ourselves epidemiologically what we did wrong. Obviously, risk factors are important. Not controlling blood sugars and excessive use of steroids and other powerful drugs like tocilizumab have a part to play. But obviously, without the fungus itself, there is no way this could have happened. And I think the question of how did the fungus get into the system is most important and not being asked.
What is your guess?
Oh, I'm sure of it. I'm not guessing. Fungus is airborne. We know that for a long time. That's why we have guidelines on this. So any structural work happening in a hospital, there are guidelines called the ICRA guidelines, Infection Control Risk Assessment. We know because it spreads by the air. Think of it this way. COVID patients who have very severe injury, they have injury to the lungs. So if you have fungal infection, why isn't going to the lungs? Because that's the one which is most destroyed. Why is it go to the sinuses? The reason is because it's airborne. Those who are in hospitals where liquid air is available and it's piped through good pipelines, they are getting good quality air, and therefore the spore is not contaminating it. Unfortunately, we are now having to repurpose a lot of old cylinders and we are refilling it wherever we can. And when all of that happens, these have a very high fungal burden. Industrial units, I don't know how well they can check for fungal contamination and things like that. And when you start blasting it into people's nostrils, you are depositing it right into the sinuses. And it's a tinderbox waiting to go off. And I suspect, my strong suspicion is that the quality of air is what is tipping the balance this time around.
Important point, and therefore a good point on which to get my ENT specialist, because Dr. Rahul Modi, ENT and head and neck surgeon, critically it is through the nose that black fungus enters the body system. Now, as suggested by Dr. Subramaniam, there is the main reason is prolonged unhygienic oxygen delivery in a sense to patients. Possibly also some are suggesting with indiscriminate use of steroids. What's your sense? Why has black fungus entered? And can you give our viewers a sense of what are the symptoms to look out for?
So, like Dr. Subramaniam has said, it's not a new disease. And it is always a combination of factors which leads the patients to develop the symptoms. Now, studies have shown a lot of healthy individuals may harbor fungus in their nostrils, but the fungus starts invading the system only after the immunity drops. So it's a combination of, high dose of steroids, high blood sugars, especially once the patient is discharged from the hospital, where there is poor follow-up. Initial symptoms may be many minor. It can be nose block, it can be watering of the nose, it can be a facial pain, a dental pain, which the patient may ignore. Thus, we need to keep our antennas up. We need to keep a very high degree of suspicion when we are seeing patients who are post-COVID, especially in the first 60 days, is what we need to be on a high alert, especially if the patient has received prolonged oxygen use, high dose of steroids, or ventilator.
But would you say, Dr. Modi, that it is linked, therefore, to prolonged unhygienic oxygen delivery more than possible indiscriminate use of steroids, or it's a combination of both?
So we are seeing this also in individuals who didn't receive a lot of oxygen, right? But unfortunately received steroids at home, unfortunately received very large doses of steroids. So it's multifactorial. I'm sure there is a part to be played by the oxygen too.
Okay.
But the high dose of steroids is something I think which also needs to be looked upon.
And you said a symptom was a nose block. Am I correct? An initial possible symptom?
It could be very non-specific. You know, you will have a patient coming with a non-specific cold, some very low-grade pain. The patients would have had the symptoms for a few days, and then they would come. And it's not something, you know, that we don't see like 20 times a day already. But in post-COVID patients is something that we need to be very alert, because this could be early signs.
Okay. Let me also bring in Dr. Sujit Jha as an endocrinologist. Give us your sense, because there's a belief that those with diabetes and those who are unable to control their sugar levels are particularly vulnerable. Am I correct, Dr. Jha, that there is a direct relation between your failure to control sugar levels and black fungus?
So, Rasif, you know, one thing we should get, these forces are around us. It's not new to us. We had diabetes in this country. Almost 1/3 or 10% have diabetes, and 1/3 are vulnerable to diabetes. We always use steroids as well. We have not used the combination of COVID, nasal cannula, steroids, and diabetes all in combination. So these fungus, you know, our body is such an immune strong system that normally these fungus would not invade unless what we call is the immunocompromised. This is a word probably known to everyone now. You have solid cancer, very active cancer disease, or your HIV and AIDS. These things to invade only if you're vulnerable, which is literally quite immunocompromised after renal transplant or liver transplant. So by 20, 30 years of experience, you never used to see so much of mucormycosis. It's not the talk of the town 6 months before.
No, so why is it happening? No, so just a minute, doctor. You're saying that Indians have, we are the diabetic capital of the world.
Correct.
We've always had diabetes, but we haven't had black fungus in such large numbers. You're saying it is linked to immunity levels falling post getting COVID. Am I correct?
It's a chronic diabetes precipitated, putting a fuel by the heavy dose of steroids. That's making a diabetes high. That's making vulnerable fungus, and also the rampant use of antibiotics as well. We are using the combination of antibiotics, steroids, sustained over the period of time without the possible need. I'm not saying that diabetes patients should not receive steroids, because steroids is one of the most important treatment that what we have in cases of diabetes. But it must be used in a controlled fashion.
Sure.
And we had this fungus, which has become more vulnerable because the sugar levels are high, and the COVID-19 will also immunocompromise your body, and the nasal cannula is precipitating with the background use of antibiotics.
But Dr. Jha, the fact is there are diabetics all over the world. Yes, we are the diabetic capital of the world, but the rest of the world is not reporting black fungus like India is at the moment. So I'm just trying to understand why India at the moment.
So, Mr. Sardesai, you go to Iceland and buy dexamethasone 6 milligram. I'll give you £1 million. You can't buy dexamethasone, Medrol on a over-the-counter basis anywhere in the world except the third world countries. So that has made millions and millions of people self-prescribing steroids, but not prescribing diabetes medications, not prescribing insulin. So what has happened to the country that each and every home has got a steroid stored in this country.
Right.
And indiscriminate use of steroids, which is millions and millions of people have used steroids over the period of the last 6-8 weeks time, over this second, third phase, whatever we call that. And on the background, nobody have bothered to check the diabetes. We have been sitting at home. We have not been checking diabetes. The sugar has precipitated. The lockdown periods, lack of exercise, diabetes going up. We are not checking as frequently. And over the top of it, COVID infections, nasal cannula, steroids precipitating diabetes, and the steroid use is very high doses of use in our country.
I take
compared
that,
to
but
what
it is
used
the
in Oxford.
doctors who are prescribing in many cases the steroids. I'll come back to you in a moment. I also want to go to an ophthalmologist. I'm joined by Dr. Naveen Sakhuja, one of the country's leading ophthalmologists. And Dr. Sakhuja, many patients are complaining of double vision, blurred vision, complete blindness. In a sense, it appears that what black fungus is doing, and correct me if I'm wrong, going through the nasal tracts, coming to the eyes, damaging your eyes, and then going to the brain where it can be fatal. I mean, has something changed? I'm asking all the doctors that suddenly we've got black fungus. What has suddenly meant that so many patients, possibly even that you're getting, are being troubled by potential black fungus?
See, I think I'm pretty much in agreement with Dr. Jha on a lot of issues here. See, the reason why we are seeing, I think one of the questions you asked was why we are seeing more and more black fungus here. I think it's a combination of 4 or 5 factors. One is the fact that diabetics are more prone to develop, you know that they're more prone to develop black fungus. You also know that they are the ones who stay in the hospital longer because they get more severe COVID disease. Reduced immunity, steroid use, diabetes, prolonged stay, and the fact that you need large doses of oxygen just to help them survive. And the oxygen is being passed through fluid, which may or may not be sterile enough. And therefore they inhale it. It reaches the maxillary sinus and the ethmoid sinus. Now between the ethmoid sinus and the eye is a very, very thin bone called the lamina papyracea. It's called lamina papyracea because it means paper. Papyracea meaning paper. It's a paper thin bone. So ultimately what happens is that the fungus reaches from the sinuses straight into the area of the orbit.
So what's the symptom? Is there a symptom as we are seeing with nasal blockages? What are the symptoms, doctor, that we should be looking at?
I'm coming to that. So what you'll get actually is, you see the orbit is a fixed small cavity in which the eyeball is located. The moment that orbit is getting filled with pus or with infection or with mucus, which is beginning to occupy space, the eye will begin to bulge out. That is a condition called proptosis. In addition, it will reduce the outflow of the blood vessels from the orbit, and therefore you will start getting a jelly-like swelling all over the eye, which is called chemosis. All the muscles lie in the socket, they will stop working, so the eye movement will stop. When the eye movement stops, it's double vision because your eyes have to be coordinated with each other to maintain single vision. And worst of all, the optic nerve passes from there. Once the optic nerve is involved, it will lead to blindness. Now, all these tissues pass out from here towards the brain, the blood vessels, the optic nerve, and so on, through little cavities, little holes, which are connecting the back of the socket to the brain. And that is where the infection then penetrates to the brain.
Okay, I think in this first part, you all have all given us a sense of what it's all about. I want to try and understand treatment and therefore go to you, Dr. Subramaniam Swaminathan, because a WhatsApp forward, and there is this whole WhatsApp university I know out there, attributed to a doctor has gone viral claiming damp masks can be a possible reason. What are the precautions that we should be taking to avoid black fungus, particularly those who've had COVID and possibly also have not controlled their sugar levels?
So I think it's multifactorial. So obviously, when we look at outbreaks of zygomyces in various parts of the world, it's usually traceable back to one common factor. And we need to find that common factor and fix the factor. Can masks do it? Theoretically possible. But for so many masks to be contaminated in so many places across the world would be highly unlikely. And masks do not harbor such a large volume of fungus. Given the rapid spread and the rapid progression of the disease in the individual patient, it leads me to believe that the inoculum load, that is the amount of fungus which is initially deposited, was very, very high. And for that to happen from a single mask is most unlikely. That doesn't make sense. So yes, the mask in theory could be a possible source, but it's most unlikely based on the dynamics of spread and the speed at which it's going.
And doctor, it's not contagious and it's not transmissible. Am I correct? Let's settle that. It's not contagious.
It does not go person to person. No, it does not go person to person. You can't sit around a person with zygomyces and develop zygomyces. It doesn't work like that.
So treatment, Dr. Rahul Modi, as an ENT, treatment that you recommend, what is the treatment? Should I, the moment today, if I'm a COVID patient, I start getting nose blockages, immediately come to an ENT? What's the treatment? What do you recommend?
So if you are a post-COVID patient who has received oxygen therapy or steroids or both, then you should keep a high alert for the symptoms that we just discussed. Once you have those symptoms, you should approach a local ENT, that's ear, nose, throat, doctor or an ophthalmologist, or your general family practitioner who's well aware can also help. Once diagnosed, an early MRI can give us good clues in terms of whether there is fungus or not. And a simple nasal endoscopy can tell us if we can see any changes inside the mucosa.
Right.
We need to take these patients urgently for surgeries. We need to start them on life-saving drugs, that is amphotericin. And most importantly, we need to reverse their immunocompromise as much as we can. That means controlling their sugars.
Okay.
So it's a teamwork, along with surgery, medical therapy, and control of the immunocompromise.
How would would you recommend that, Dr. Sujit Jha, that COVID patients who are diabetics need to be particularly careful of the kind of steroids that they are being recommended? As I said earlier, many of the steroids are being recommended by doctors. The dexamethasone has been given by, over the counter is coming because that's the prescription that I get. Or a tocilizumab. It's not the patient, but it's the doctors who are recommending it. So would you say you've got to be particularly careful if you're a diabetic when you're taking these steroids?
Rajiv, I'll correct you. The whole Indian country in the whole India population's 1/3 is vulnerable diabetes. Even if you have pre-diabetes, the steroids can precipitate diabetes in next 24-36 hours. And there are 1/3 of the patients may not be so-called known diabetic even in recent past. So almost everyone who has in India who's got little obesity, high risk patients above 30, BMI, which is excess body weight, is a high risk of having black fungus A. So India has got a large number of diabetes population, so everybody should try to check their baseline sugar before we start steroids. Once we start steroids, we should be careful when to drop it as well. And if you're on steroids, make sure the sugar is checked. One thing also warn you, sugar in the morning time could be fine. Steroids tend to go up at 8-10 hours. Late afternoon, evening, tea time, the blood sugar tends to go up. And sometimes checking the morning sugar is not good enough. With steroids, it can go up later part of the week. And day 1, it may not. By day 3, it can goes up.
So would you say a COVID patient must check sugar morning and evening?
Correct. And later part of the evening, 5-6 p.m. at least, twice a day, even with the glucometer is good enough. And a baseline sugar, because we are doing so many tests, these days, getting scandens and getting so many IL-6 and D-dimer tests. Why not such simple sugar? Blood sugar testing.
Blood sugar testing for COVID patient. Dr. Sakhuja, what is the treatment that you recommend for anyone who may suddenly get blurring of vision at the moment?
Well, if it's actually proven to be mucormycosis and this cases of black fungus, the situation is quite dire for the eye. It can go as far as requiring exenteration and removal of the entire socket, removal of almost all the tissues in the socket, and the eyeball, of course, will go with it. Basically, you'll need to debulk the whole tissue and try and remove as much of the fungal load as possible.
Right.
Now, but here at this point, I'd like to digress just one bit and agree very strongly with Dr. Jha. In India, this is a little off of the black fungus thing. We are all allowed to go and pick up medicines off the counter from the chemist. As a result of which, everybody is stocked. This is also the reason why half the drugs are not available in the country. They're not available. That's one of the questions you need to ask. Why is it that only in India we have a shortage of all the drugs? It is because the drug is you have access to it. You can go and pick up whatever you want from the store, including steroids.
No, but doctor, let's be honest, it's the doctors who are prescribing this.
Yes, doctors are prescribing, but that's part of the treatment. It is part of the treatment. It is one of the known side effects that when you are putting a patient on steroids, you know that their sugar is going to go up. You are also dealing with a disease in which the immunity is going to come down. So I don't think it's the doctors at fault at all.
Okay.
If you don't give them the steroid, the patient is going to die due to another complication, due to a lung complication. So they have to give the steroid. I am saying that how is it that you can go and pick up the steroid on your own? Right. You know that you cannot do that in any country in the world. You cannot pick up an eye drop from any country in the world other than lubricating drops.
Okay, you make an important point. You make an important point.
It is something that requires legislation to say that, no, I'm sorry, you cannot pick up a drug till it is prescribed to you.
Point taken. Dr. Jha,
you can pick up.
Dr. Jha, you wanted to respond to what Dr. Sakhuja just said.
Exactly, I agree with Dr. Sakhuja. It's quite fine. You're seeking steroids. We have a different healthcare structures, fair enough. But once you start steroids, get in touch with the GP physicians, whosoever get hang of it. get your sugar test. If it's high, at least at that point, contact your doctor. Now, the question is, we start prescribing diabetes medication just because I prescribe, Rajdeep, certain medications to you because your sugar levels are 300. That doesn't mean you photocopy WhatsApp and your next door neighbor carry the medications. So let's get this right. I have prescribed certain medication to Mr. Sardesai. It doesn't mean that I prescribe to Mr. Sinha as well. So it's very important to understand the doctors prescribe, they understand what they're prescribing. Now, I'm not saying that doctors are prescribing every time right, but we also need to check the blood sugar, also need to monitor, and also very important part of the medical emergency is to treat that acidosis, treat with insulin, get sugar right. If you have diabetes, if you're on steroids, I'm not suggesting people should go to pharmacy and start buying insulin and injecting itself. That's another potential hazardous drug. I also prescribe insulin to today 5 people with mucormycosis today. That does not mean that it's photocopied to next patients. It needs to be under the supervision. It's very important to understand this. We do prescribe steroids. I have prescribed steroids, but that does not mean that everybody should start photocopying and start buying. At the same time, also the diabetes treatment, also the anticoagulation treatment. That is not right.
Okay.
This is not acceptable at all.
Dr. Swaminathan, the worry that has come, why has black fungus become such a big issue is because at the moment it is spreading in places where previously perhaps there were just a couple of cases. Suddenly you've got 20, 30, 40, 50 cases. So there's an element of panic. How are you going to reassure people? Government center is telling governments today declare it an epidemic. Is it the hospitals who have to watch out for it now, be much more careful, doctors while prescribing steroids, telling patients who are diabetics to be much more careful with sugar levels? How are you going to reassure people at a stage when we've already got COVID, now black fungus, give them a sense of some reassurance at the end, doctor?
So I think there are 2 parts to it. The first part is reducing the risk factors. So obviously, we need to be very, very aggressive in controlling the blood sugars and using as little steroids as possible. As has been so beautifully pointed out, this is a pandemic situation where guidelines have been a little slow in coming. And therefore, when it is panic stations, the patients are being, it's an attempt to save the patient, even if you have to do whatever you need to. But obviously, with more guidelines coming in, doctors can be more stringent in their steroid use. And I think doing sugars 3, even 4 times a day when you're in hospital on steroids is probably good quality, good practice. We do that all the time. The second thing is also looking at controlling other risk factors like acidosis and things like that. I think also looking at infection control measures would also be helpful. But here's the point. This can happen in any part of the world. It does happen in many parts of the world. Ours, because the numbers and the scale, obviously, it's far more difficult. The most important thing right now is if you've been exposed, try and get it diagnosed as quickly as possible, get debridement done or whatever it is, and appropriate therapy. And with early diagnosis and early debridement, actually, you can have a meaningful life after that. It's the delay in diagnosis that can be dangerous. So it's important to seek help as quickly as possible. For those who are exposed, that's the way forward. For those who are not exposed, I think infection control, risk factor control is the most important thing.
Dr. Modi, do you think that it'll get better soon, or do you believe we are in for a long haul when it comes to black fungus? Is this something that could suddenly, as an ENT surgeon, that will we see suddenly overnight the cases reducing, or do you feel that this could continue for a while yet?
How I wish, Rajdeep, how I wish that cases would reduce overnight. The message should go across that most of these patients develop these symptoms 10 to 50 days after the discharge from the hospital. So it is not in the hospital that they're developing these symptoms. So we need to develop a strong follow-up regime for our COVID patients. We need to make them alert. That's our best bet. A simple 1,500, 2,000 rupee glucometer done at home. Any patient who receives steroids, diabetic or non-diabetic, is our best bet against this pandemic. So I just hope that the numbers don't rise, because I know we are falling short. We are falling short in terms of providing these patients beds. We are falling short in providing these patients medications. And this is a bad disease in a very sick patient. So our prevention is our best bet. Next best is early detection and treatment. So I just hope that it settles down sooner than later.
We've had 4 fine doctors giving us a sense of what black fungus is about. You've demystified it for us, and I hope in a way reassured a number of people who will again panic. I think we put on the screen, as you've seen, what you need to do in terms of treatment and detection and ensure that you are able to minimize the risks. I thank all my doctors once again for joining us. It's always a pleasure listening to informed voices. So thank you very much for joining me here on the News Today this evening.